You blinked. How would you know? We're blind! Hello everyone and welcome to the recap review. Today we're going to be looking over the Phantoka Makuta. From left to right we have set number 8691 Antros, 8692 Vampra, and 8693 Kurox. Also from left to right, the approximate piece count for each set is 53 pieces for Antros, and an approximate 49 pieces for both Vampra and Kurox. They were released in the winter of 2008, and at time of release were approximately $13. Boy, I remember people waited so long to get these sets. They were so pumped and excited because they looked so cool. These are the first Makuta sets that we had gotten that were not Makuta Pterodax. So story-wise, they were sent into Cardanui by Makuta Pterodax in order to awaken Matanui, or make sure that happened. But it was really all a ploy to see them die. Which worked, by the way. However, they did look cool to a lot of people, and everyone was really excited for them. So, without further ado, before we begin the actual review, let's start off with the disclaimer. Just because you hear a pro or a con here does not necessarily mean it is my opinion. Just because something is here, unless I explicitly say it isn't necessarily something I either agree with or have thought up on my own. These are all community opinions that I am representing here, and things people have said or thought about the set that I would like to bring up. So unless I explicitly say it is my opinion, please do not assume it is. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get on with the review and look over all of them as a group. And then I will go ahead and kind of do a little bit of individuality, probably not so much this time because there are not comparisons to be made here. So let's start off with Vampra since he's on the forefront. He is the most different from any of these Makuta. The similarities are obviously their torsos and the fact they all, at least to some degree, contain the color black and use wing pieces. So with Vampra, the new pieces are fairly evident. We have this giant torso piece. This is one block, and, obviously you do have the standard pelvis piece. However, we have this one new torso piece for the sole purpose of containing the new ribcage piece, and this is also one piece. Now, what does the ribcage contain? This is a Tridax pod, and inside, come on, stand up, are these funny little fuzzy guys called shadow leeches. They come in a nice, beautiful blue. It's going to be hard to kind of see them, so I'll have to look over them later. But there's a little shadow leech, and it has an axle hole there. There are 4 of them per Tridax pod. What you do, you put them in, and this ribcage piece holds them in place. Now, they're all bright orange. That coincides with their eye color, so that works. So those are the new pieces, along with these wing pieces. And amongst these 3 sets, we get them in silver melding into gray, or gunmetal, silver melding into blue, and silver melding into black. On Vampra, the other new piece we get is the mask, the Kanohi Avsa, the Mask of Hunger, I think it is. Basically, it saps someone's power away. Returning pieces, we have the Borak arms, obviously. It is a general Anika build. It kind of works off of that format. And recolored pieces, we have the Matoran, my goodness, blades in Metru Blue. As well as this piece here. We normally saw this piece in a a bioluminescent color, specifically on Nocturne and Takedox. However, it is now here in silver, giving us both of those new pieces in silver. Vampra is quite an impressive looking individual. You can outstretch his arms to kind of look like he's flying. He's got quite a large wingspan there. However, he is rather short. He is probably the most bat-like looking out of these Makuta, since they are all based off of bats to some certain degree. And Vampra really does capture that appearance, because he has quite stubby legs. But to that degree, he's got those stubby legs. He has to walk on pins. You can't have him, you could have him sit like this. He does look rather awkward to many people. So, there you have it. That's Vampra. We're going to go ahead and move on to, Kurox. Now, Kurox is quite interesting as well. He's got some new pieces. He's got the mask, Kanohi Shilik, the Mask of Silence. He has these huge blade pieces. They're called hook blades in the story, as far as I'm aware. And they are quite big. And they attach kind of awkwardly, many believe. He has these pieces in silver, which I believe we had recolored. No, new to this set. I'm fairly confident they're new to this set. He has the Shadow Matoran feet in black. He also has Hordika feet, Hordika legs in black as well, which many believe to have been an odd choice, but some also would argue that it works with his aesthetic. So aside from that, he doesn't have a whole lot of other new pieces. His arms have the unique function of being able to fold up. So his arms do get shouldered. They do get shouldered. They are shoulders now. They do get shorter, and it gives him this really beefed up, kind of bulky appearance. But he can also extend his arms and look rather menacing. So that's generally Kurox. There's not a whole lot new to him. He has these same pieces: the Tridax pod, rib cage, and the new torso. Now moving on over to Antros, finally. Go ahead and see what he has. Now Antros is the big bad. He's the guy that's leading the two of them. His new pieces are these giant black and red wing pieces. Really huge things. They're really cool. They give him... Oh. Okay, come on. Okay, well that's breaking. That's another con. But anyway, he's got these two really cool wing pieces. They extend outward. You can make them do this, that, and the other thing. They've got quite an extensive amount of articulation. He also has these new claw pieces, these new blades, and they look really cool. A lot of people love how these look, and they attach on his hands like so. There are not a whole lot of new recolors to Antros, actually. In fact, he probably has the least between the two of these guys here. No. I'd give him the least. Maybe. He does also have his new mask, the Kanohi Jutlin, Mask of Rot. So that's really neat. And he looks the most Toa-ish between the three of them. So, general stature, but with a little bit more spikes and claws. So that basically sums up the Makuta. There's not a whole lot I can say to them as far as new things go. So let's go ahead and review them. So some of the good parts about these Makuta are their look. They look quite vicious. They have that evil appearance to them. They also do have a lot of new pieces and some new building techniques here or there, where there are some. So that is nice to see. The new masks are also really cool. And they kind of fill that whole 6 colors per wave thing, because these are the other half of the colors that the Phantoka had. So you got the green, brown, now orange and white. Then you got the black, the red, and the blue. And then we're going to get them in reverse next wave. So there's that. Their color schemes are fairly consistent in black and then a secondary color, except for Antros, except for Kurox, my apologies, who is primarily just black and silver. Kind of like Nuparu Mari. So they do kind of consistently work out. Here and there are a few visible red pins. However, they are not as obnoxious, except for on Kurox. They're on Antros too, but they're only on his back. So there's that. One issue all these sets hold is that their heads wobble, especially depending on what is next to the head at the time, because that is an axle going through a pinhole. So they all shake like that to a degree, and that's rather unfortunate. The other issue many people have is the giant orange splotch on their torsos. Many would argue that works stylistically with them. However, others would say it's just a giant orange orb on their chests. Speaking of which, let's quickly go over that function. So the Makuta are flying, they're, doing their Makuta thing, yada yada. Well, then they want to infect some, shadowfy some Matoran. So what you do, you press this down, and it will drop. Now, normally you get it high up enough, that happens. And it's really cool, and you get shadow leeches everywhere, and they're just going... They're trying to look for people to eat. So, on the flip side, without the Tridax pod, they look like skeletons. That is a voided area. And not many people like that. Obviously enough, it makes it seem really gappy and unusual. So, regarding the build, it's not exactly complex. Not many people like it because it is still a form of the Inika build. So you're not going to get some technologically advanced creative design here. It's not that unique or creative or really anything different aside from the usual Anika build. And some people do like that, because it's straightforward, it's easy to comprehend and understand, but still has the level of complexity that people enjoy, that people expect. So there is that. As far as their masks go, their designs, they all carry a bat motif fairly consistently. There's not a lot of deviation, and a lot of people do enjoy that. Some people do not like Kurox for his fairly standard and not exactly eye-popping color scheme, black and silver, so nothing much there. But the other two, people do seem to enjoy them, aside from the silver, ever so often. That kind of breaks up the two primary colors. So that generally covers these guys and their builds. There's one more function. We've already gone over the Tridex Pod. There's one more function that we need to go over, and that is the Matoran combination. So let's go look at that. Now, all the Makuta and the Toa and the Mystica and all of them can combine with a Matoran. However, for this, we're going to look specifically at Antros and his buddy Radiac. So, in the story, the Makuta are blinded thanks to Matora's sacrifice with the Konoha Ignika, and they are effectively without sight whatsoever. Well, lo and behold, if they are combined with the Matoran, if a Matoran has physical contact with them, then they are able to see through the Matoran's eyes. And this is done in the set like so. Now, unlike the Toa, who had the ability to take their Matoran and put them smack on their back, the connection point is brought down lower toward the base of the spine. That way, the Matoran sit upright. And it's essentially like so. You click on, and Radiac, you put his feet like right here, kind of like it's like a seatbelt. So when they're standing up, the Matoran, it kind of looks weird. So whenever a Matoran is on a Makuta, they have to be at an angle. Now, obviously enough, this was made for flying. The Makuta would be flying at that time, which is why they'd have them sitting upright. That makes sense. However, that is generally how you have to have these to pose them at least somewhat coherently. And like I said, it does work for the other Makuta and their respective Matoran, or pretty much any Matoran. So, there you go, and there you have it. That essentially sums up the Phantoka Makuta. There's not a whole lot more I can say. It's an unspoken rule that all the joints, because of their redesign, are brittle and will break. You got to be very careful. I think you guys saw that earlier with this whole thing. So be very, very careful if you go out and repurchase these, because the joints are going to be fragile no matter what. So as the Phantoka Makuta, what do you guys think of them? Which is your favorite? Let me know either in the comments below or on the TTV Message Boards at board.ttvpodcast.com. Join me next week when I look over a United States Walmart exclusive, which may not have been exclusive in other places. Yet again, another Makuta, Mutran, and Vikan. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.